We've got 3 tech champions today, aren't you lucky? First off, it's myself. So I'm the data analytics and insight tech champion. So what to measure, how to measure it, and why. We've also got Roberta, who's our website tech champion. Say hello, Roberta.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. So we'll get to Roberta later on. And we've also got Peggy, and Peggy is our email marketing tech champion. So she'll be covering email marketing today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Lovely. Thank you, both of you. So we'll see more of those in a bit. And so this is what we're going to cover today. This is the breakdown of what it is. So first off, the section I'm going to look at is what is A/B testing? What is testing? So we're going to have a look at that, and I'll explain those things. We've got a quiz for you as well as we go along. Then we'll move on to Peggy, and Peggy is going to cover about optimizing your email campaigns, and then look at some of the platforms and functionality. Then we're going to go to Roberta, and Roberta is going to look at optimizing your website using different tools. And then again, platforms, functionality. And at each stage of this, so after my part, after Peggy's part, and after Roberta's part, we're going to have a little break where we can do a Q&A at those sections. So as we go along, just add those questions to the Q&A functionality. So it's on the bar at the bottom, press that button, ask a question. We'll either answer it in the chat. So Peggy's managing the chat as we speak now, so you'll see some messages come up from her. And if Peggy doesn't answer it there, we'll answer it at the end of the session, and then we'll have a nice wrap up at the very end as well. So first off, we get asked this question a lot, is that how do we get in touch with you guys? You're amazing. It's this. So this is the email address, and it's the digital culture, sorry, gotta say it right, the digital network at artscouncil.org.uk. Now, if you are an Arts Council England funded organisation, or you're eligible for funding, so you're an arts and culture organisation and you normally would be eligible for funding, you can get one-to-one support from the tech champions. So that's such as myself or Peggy or Roberta, or the other 6 we have as well with their different specialisms. So if you need any help with anything you're doing, and it could be about what we're going to talk about today, but it could be other things you're trying to do digitally. Yeah, I can't say digitally. Please just drop us a message because Genevieve, our administrator, will get back to you and tell you either whether you're eligible, if you're not sure if you are or not, and then and she'll put you in touch with the right tech champion. Additionally, you can go to our website. So on our website, what we have is loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of resources about the different specialisms and things we talk about. So please go on there and check out the different stuff we have. We have webinar recordings on there. So the stuff that we've done in the past, there's lots of different resources, and there's the upcoming events as well. And you can also get in touch with the tech champions through that. Now, everything that we do today, we're recording this session, and we'll put that on the website following this. And on there, as well as the webinar recording, we'll also have lots of different resources as well to support what we're going to talk about today. So don't feel like you need to make all the notes as we go through, because you can rewatch this webinar in the future, and you can read through the resources that we send you afterwards as well. So first off, what is A/B testing? So I'm asking you, please put it in the chat and we'll have a look at some of the answers there. So what is A/B testing? I'll wait for your answers, and we've got a few, we'll have a look. So Chloe Designs, don't know, that's fine, that's why you're here, we're going to talk about it. Oh, and sorry, when you're using the chat, please select where it says select all panelists and attendees. Otherwise, it'll only be us that see it, but not everybody else that comes along. So just switch that little drop down just above where you put that message. So I've got some others here. So is it alpha beta testing for different versions? Correct, yes. Sending an email with different subject lines, etc., to test which gets the best response. Yeah, that's A/B testing, yeah. And then we've got Jill testing 2 simple options between different audiences. Brilliant. Here we go. A/B testing. Try different 2 approach and compare them. Yeah, comparing. Excellent. This is great. If you know it already, we might as well stop the webinar now, and then that's it. But no, we're going to go into more detail. So thank you for those that have responded. That's great. Excellent. So what A/B testing is a part of an overarching process called CRO, and it's that's short for conversion rate optimization. And you might see that banded around when you're looking at articles about marketing and the different things and moving down a funnel, a marketing funnel and stuff. And what it is about is optimizing the funnel. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. But what it is essentially is getting more people to do the thing you want them to do. And you can use different platforms and processes to help make that process better, that thing that you want them to do, get more people to do it. And that's really in simple terms. So if I had 1,000 users and they came and did something, so it could be anything, you've got to think about your organization. What do you want your users to do? And then look at how they're doing it. And then what part of it you can the actual optimize as part of that process. So if I had 1,000 users and they came to my website and 50 of them did the thing that I wanted them to do, and we're going to talk about what that looks like and what potentially those things could be in a bit. But for example, I want them to sign up to my newsletter. So 1,000 people came to my website, 50 people took action and signed up to the newsletter. What that does is give me a conversion rate of 5%. Now I calculate that by using this. So I divide the actions by the users. So it's 50 actions divided by 1,000 users equals 0.05, which is 5%. Now, if I have the same amount of users coming to the website and I improve the conversion rate, so we're optimizing the conversion rate, so we get more people to do the thing we want to do, we don't have to get more people in at the top end of the funnel because we're actually just improving that one piece of it. So if I can get a conversion rate of 10% instead of 5%, and that's because I've done some changes to my website, or I've changed the messaging or different things, and we'll look at those in more detail when we get to the different sections. If it's a 10% conversion rate, I've now got 100 people that have subscribed to my newsletter. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And again, that same calculation, 100 actions divided by 1,000 users equals 0.10, which is 10%. So that's 10% instead of 5%, but we've still got the same amount of people coming into the website. It's all about optimizing the funnel. So now I've got a question for you again. Now this is in the poll, so we're going to use the poll functionality, and that's going to pop up on your screen. So conversion rate optimization can help me, and wait till I launch this poll. Just bear with me a second. I'm just clicking my buttons. I'm going to launch it now. Okay. So conversion rate optimization can help me solve visitor pain points, get more conversions by investing less time and money, make low-risk modifications, redesign my website, change pricing of products, or is it all of the above? Okay, I've got the answers coming in now. Brilliant. I've got 50% of you have voted. Excellent. Great. 63, 66. Come on, click those buttons. I'm going to do it for 10 more seconds, and then I'm going to close it. Ready? 81, 84%. Come on, keep voting. A couple more, please. Right, I'm going to stop it in a second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I've ended the poll. Interesting results. Essentially, none of you are wrong, because if you've selected one of the options, it's correct, but the answer really is all of the above. So I'll share the results with you. So thank you for responding to those. And it's right. Conversion rate optimization can help with all these things, and it's, think about it with anything you're doing digitally or offline as well. If you can improve the conversion rate, all these things can are a benefit from doing it. So it is worthwhile to spend time putting these things in place. And we're going to talk about what those examples of what that would look like when we get to Peggy's and Roberta's sections. So if you want to get started with doing some conversion rate optimization, where do you start? You start at defining what your objective is. Now, we talk to a lot of organizations about this and what that means. But an objective is what you want your users or customers to do. And by going away and thinking about that, so you might have different types of customers. and you want them to do different things. So for example, on the Digital Culture Network website, we have people, users that come to the site and consume the content that we put out there. So reading articles, watching videos. And that's one of our audience groups, is the people that we want in arts and culture organizations to upskill. Another audience group for us is partners. So we want partners to get in touch with us, so tech providers and things like that. So we have different objectives for them as well. So we want them to get in touch with us via a different form. So that's another objective. So I've got two different objectives there, and I can look at those conversion funnels, and then we can try and improve them by changing wording, messaging, all those kind of things. So when you're approaching conversion rate optimization, define what your objectives are and define what can you change. And that's going to lead you into the research that you'll go in about these things. Because if you can't change anything, there's no point focusing on it as a conversion rate optimization, because you can't change it. So look at those. And again, we'll look at those when we get to Roberta's and Peggy's sections. So there's steps to A/B testing or multivariable testing, which Roberta mentions later on. So I'll let her explain that one. And these apply to both of the things that we're talking about today, which is websites and email marketing. So the first step is doing some research. And usually this is based on qualitative data. So qualitative data is different from quantitative data. So these are big words that I always get mixed up. So quantitative data is numbers, so metrics like ones and zeros, so how many people have done a thing. Qualitative data is more thoughts and feelings. So it's feedback that you're getting from your audience. So your people might have got in touch with you via email and said, I was trying to do this thing and I just couldn't do it. That's going to feed into your research, because you're learning from what your user experiences are and where they're getting stuck. So what is the problem? Once you've identified the problem, you can then look at the hypothesis. This is where you think yourself, go, if I change something, so if it's a user journey that someone goes on, if I change this, will it help? So that's where you're thinking, like, maybe if we change this, it'll help. So without going full-fledged and making that change, what you can do as part of this A/B testing is create variants. Now, we've all heard of variants. Looking at you, COVID. We can create our own, which are much friendlier and nicer than the variants that we're used to at the moment. And you could have different versions. So the hypothesis is that what we're going to talk about later on with Roberta's section is about newsletter subscribers. So if we change something, can we increase the amount of people subscribing to our newsletter? So we'll create a variant, and a variant would be a different version of what we normally have. And the last step is the result analysis and conclusions. So looking at the data that you get on the back of this, and the platforms provide this data for you. What have you learned from it? Did it work? Should we make that change? So as I said, it stops you just making a change because of a whim. You can actually base it on actual data. Now, when we asked you questions as part of the sign-up form, some of you asked us, what number do we put against these? How long should we let it run for? And you know, what size of a test should we do for any of this? And there's a thing called statistical significance. So it's a certain number that reaches that it's a probability that it is the correct version. Now, a lot of platforms will do this for you. So it'll do the calculation for you. So you don't have to like pick a number out of the air of what that would be. If it's for email marketing, there's loads of guides, and Peggy will go into this when we get to her section, and the further resources will explain that as well. They will say that you should send it to roughly around this many people before you, when you do that test. And so that's where you're going to get the numbers from. There's not a magic number that's going to apply to everything, because it's all based on what you're testing and why. There are a few other factors that you should think about that apply to both email marketing and website testing as well. And just going to go through a couple of those before we move on to look at the Q&A, if there's any questions from you. The first is the duration. What you usually see when you're running a test is a spike for the variant, because it's something new that users probably haven't seen before, or it like interrupts the flow, something like that. So what you need to do is, because over time that excitement of a new thing will drop off, is let the test run to the end, and you'll have a certain time that you'll run for these things. Using the right tool is a big one. By defining the objective and what you can change, that'll help you identify the right tool. So you won't be using a website conversion rate optimization if you're doing things on your email. So it's just finding the right tool and matching them up. And again, we'll show examples of what they potentially are for those different areas in the next sections. The fourth point is around considering external factors as well. So you know your organization, you know your audience. If there's certain things that happen at a certain time of year, like there's a drop in visitors anyway because of a certain thing happening, you need to have that in your mind when you're approaching any of this, because they might have an impact on the results. And the last point is to follow a step-by-step process. What we're talking about is not testing everything in one go. We're saying test a small thing here, see the results, test another thing, see the results. If you test loads of things at the same time, you're never going to know what is going to be the right thing. And by testing in an iterative process, so step by step, you will then get an idea, and you can focus the effort into getting the best version or variant in the end, which is going to improve that conversion rate for you. So I'm now going to step out of my presentation. I'm going to put the cameras on for the other two, and I'm going to look at the Q&A before moving over to Peggy's section.
I'm afraid there's not been any questions, James. So
Perfect.
you explained it perfectly, or you've totally thrown everyone and they're like, no, this is too difficult. But I think it's the first option. Okay,
thanks. Yeah. Please, do use the Q&A functionality if you have any questions. But if I've answered all your questions, that's because when you signed up, you asked those questions there, and then we've tailored the content for exactly that. Thanks, Anna. Really well explained. Thanks. Okay, so over to you, Peggy. We'll move over to your section, if that's okay.
Brilliant. Okie dokie. Great. So now James has talked you through the principles of A/B testing. I'm going to take you through how it works specifically with emails. So we'll start off with some ideas about how you can optimize your email campaigns. And then I'm going to talk to you about the practicalities of that. So how do you actually do that within your platform? So A/B testing your emails is a really great way of finding out what resonates with your audience. And just like James said, it's about using data rather than just guesswork. So you might already be sending out some emails, maybe a monthly newsletter, and you might try out a different subject line each month. So perhaps over the course of a few months, you get a good idea of the things that make people open your emails. But with A/B testing for emails, what you do is you test a couple of ideas with one newsletter, and you test them on a small section of your audience, and then you're going to send the most successful version to the rest of your mailing list. So you're doing that testing within your monthly newsletter or whichever kinds of emails you happen to be sending. So these are the basic steps for carrying out A/B testing on your emails, and I'm going to go into each one in a bit more detail. So you start with the research and hypothesis that James talked about at the beginning. What's the objective you're trying to achieve? What's the problem, and what could you try out that might help you with that? Once you've done that, you're going to be choosing what you want to test. So that's choosing your variable. You'll come up with 2 or perhaps more options for the variable, and these are called your variants. It's probably best to start off with 2 to keep it simple. You'll send each of the variants that you've come up with to a random segment of your audience. Then you'll wait, and then you send the winning variant to the rest of the people on your list. So one of the things that's going to take you the most time is choosing what your variable is going to be. And that all comes down to what the aims of your emails are. So there's lots of different things that you can test in your email, and here are just some of the common ones. So these first 3 are all about how your email looks in the inbox. So we're talking about your subject line, so that's like the name of your email that appears in people's inbox. You've got the preview text, which is that little snippet of information that appears just under the subject line. And I'm going to show you some screenshots later on. And then you've got the sender name. So that normally appears at the top. Who is it actually coming from? You've then got these things which are more about your email design. So you've got your email length, self-explanatory, how long is your email? You've got the call to action text. So what is it that you're asking your reader to carry out, and what words do you use to encourage them to do that? And then you've got the button color. So if you're using buttons for your calls to action, you can change the colors of those. Are people more likely to click on a pink button or a green button? And then with your call to action text, do people like calls to action in the first person, third person? What kinds of things are they responding to? When you're choosing your variable, you're going to be checking your email plan. What are your objectives? And then think about which one is going to be the most effective variable to test. So we're going to do a quick quiz now to look at what you might test in a particular scenario. Just like James, I need to find my buttons to start the poll. There we go. So my scenario is that I have launched a new membership scheme and I want to see what makes people more likely to click through from the email. So we're looking at what makes people click through from the email to find out all about my new membership scheme. I'm going to read through these answers and you can choose multiple options. So you can just choose them as I read through if you want to. So should I test adding an emoji into the subject line? So send one email with and one email without an emoji. Could I change the color of the button to see if that makes more people click through? Could I change the call to action text? So what am I asking people to do? Could I choose to send it from Peggy at the DCN or maybe just from the DCN? Does that make more people click? And could I link to the website using an image instead of using link text? I'm not sure if the full text of that one is showing through, but that final option is about, are we linking with an image or are we linking with text? So choose whichever ones of those. You could choose all 5, you could choose 2 or 3. Which ones do you think would help me understand what makes people click through? Brilliant, we've got 45% of you voting. Hopefully I'm going to beat James with the number of people voting. I'll just give you a few more seconds. %80 of you have voted. 5 more seconds, see if we can get to 85. Great. Okay, so you can see here the results on your screen. So we've got 47% of you thought that adding an emoji to the subject line would help. We've got 80% of you thinking changing the button color might be a good thing to test. The call to action text is the most popular one, with 90% of you thinking that one would be good. And we've got the sender name, and we've got what type of link it is. So let's have a look through those different answers. So the main things that are going to affect how many people click through are going to be the things within that email design. So well done to those of you who selected changing the color of the button. So choosing something that might stand out to people. The call to action text, totally agree with the 90% of you who picked that one. Definitely the call to action text is going to be one of the key things that changes whether people click through or not. And then linking to the website using an image instead of a button. So that's things like if you wanted people to click through to a video, you could use a film still instead of using a thing that says watch the video. So you can use an image instead of using a button, things like that. Now, the other 2 options are probably more likely to affect your open rate. So adding an emoji to the subject line or sending it from a different sender name. There's still a link between your subject line and your click-through rate. It's just not quite as clear as those kind of email design elements. So for example, if your subject line offered free tickets to a high-profile event, and then the email copy revealed that you actually need to buy an expensive membership, your click-through rate is actually likely to be low because your subject line was misleading. So that's a really extreme example of your subject line affecting your click-through rate, but hopefully it gives you a good idea of what I'm talking about. I do talk more about trust in my introduction to email marketing webinar. So if you're not sure about what I'm talking about there, you can watch that as well. So once you've chosen your variable, you need to come up with your variance. And one of the most common things that people ask about A/B testing, and lots of you asked about it on your booking form, is doesn't it take quite a lot of time? So coming up with multiple versions of an email might seem like a lot of work, but I'm going to talk through a few examples to show you how small tweaks can make all the difference. And remember that to make it an effective test, you can only change one thing at a time. So this limits how long it will actually take you to do your A/B testing. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the sender name. And here's a reminder of what it might look like in your inbox. So we've got one here, Barbican. So your sender name lets people know who is the email from, and it's a nice, easy one to test. Do people respond more to an email from your organisation, like this one from Barbican, or perhaps they respond better to a personal name at your organisation, Lauren K at Litmus? This is a really good one to test first, because it doesn't take too much time. It's quite easy to come up with your different variants. So you could try A/B testing your sender name over the course of a few emails to see if a pattern emerges. It will give you really good practice at A/B testing your emails. It won't take you too long, and it's just a really important thing to get right. Once you've decided on your most effective sender name, you can start to test your other things. So the next one is your subject line. And that's kind of like the title of your email. So as you can see in my inbox, we've actually got quite a few subject lines that come off the end. They're too long for me to see in my inbox. So you might want to test out, does the length of your subject line affect open rates? Do people like to see the whole thing before they click through? In terms of time saving for this, I actually always recommend coming up with a few options for your subject line anyway, even if you're not A/B testing. So when email marketing was my day job, I used to come up with at least 10 ideas for subject line. And then I'd choose my favorites, either one if I wasn't A/B testing, or two if I was A/B testing. And I'd choose them with a colleague. So we'd kind of share that sort of, we used to find it quite good fun actually, coming up with lots of different ideas for the subject line. And it would take us about 15 minutes to come up with those 10 ideas. They don't have to be huge changes. So you could test things like adding an emoji, and the placement of the emoji, and that's the test that would take seconds. You're writing one subject line, doing one with and one without an emoji. You could test moving around the keywords in your subject line. Is it better to put them right at the beginning or at the end? If you look at my inbox and you notice some of them are dropping off the end there, putting them at the beginning might be a bit more effective. You could try a question, or you could try some personalization, so adding the name of the recipient into the subject line. Hopefully you can see that these small changes won't take too much time, especially as the rest of the email is going to stay exactly as it is. So I also recommend coming up with the subject line after everything else in your email is finished. So that way you'll know what the email's got in it and what you want to shout about. Yeah, so I'm going to show you a couple of examples from Brighton Fringe. And Brighton Fringe are regularly testing their email subject lines. Here's one where one of the tests was the return to live events, we need your thoughts, and one was how are you feeling about returning to live events with an emoji. So Brighton Fringe have said that since using A/B testing, their open rates have gradually been increasing. So it used to be about 15 to 20%, and they've gone up to about 20 to 25% when they send their emails. And they think this is related to several things. So firstly, the A/B test helps them to work out which of two options resonates better with their audience. So that's kind of like the simple thing that we're talking about with A/B testing. But they also said that over time, A/B testing is helping them to get to know their audience better, because they start to see what patterns are emerging in what generates those opens. And they're also finding that through the process of A/B testing, they're just paying much more attention to what their subject line is. So they're putting more effort in. So in this particular example, you can see there's just over 2% difference between the two options. And over time, Brighton Fringe have seen that using emoji doesn't really support them with increasing their opens. So 2% might not seem like a huge difference, but even on this test of around 1,700 people, that's an extra 40 opens. So once you multiply that out to the whole audience, it could actually be quite a significant extra number of people who are opening and reading your emails. This is just another example from Brighton Fringe. So you can see the difference here is much darker. So there's a 12% difference between those unique opens. I think the result here might be to do with the fact that the keyword funding is front-loaded in that winning subject line. It's probably just a really key driver of interest for people at the moment. And on the other option, the funding might have kind of dropped off the end into those ... dots. The other thing for me is the commitment level of each subject line. Funding opportunities suggest you're getting some information, whereas register suggests a bit more commitment, which might be a bit off-putting before you've even read the content of the email. So Jamie at Brighton Fringe told me that through A/B testing, they found that short, snappy subject lines engage subscribers to open their emails. Questions don't work as well, with more concise, more to the point phrases working better. But don't just go off and write some short, snappy subject lines. So although this is something that's worked for Brighton Fringe, the point is that you go out and try the different options so you can start to learn what engages your audience. And you might find that it's totally the opposite. So the final thing that people will see before they open your email is the preview text or the pre-header text, and that's that snippet that appears just under the subject line. So in some sending providers, that's also going to appear right at the top of the emails you send. It just depends on how your particular program works. So similarly to the subject line, I recommend coming up with a few options for your preview text and then choosing your favorites. So if you ask a question in your subject line, you could experiment with answering or not answering it in your preview text. You can see in this example from the AMA, they've said less than 3 weeks to go. So what they're using there is a time-sensitive kind of way of encouraging you to book tickets. But you could also test that against scarcity. So instead of less than 3 weeks to go, perhaps it's only 100 tickets left. Things like that, so you can just test what kind of engages your audience more. So the previous examples were all about increasing your open rate. If you're looking to increase your click-through rate, a good place to start is testing out the different colours for your buttons. So this is one of the quickest things you can test in your email design. So in this example, you can see a news story from a recent DCN newsletter. We normally have all of our links in pink, so testing out a purple button, it just might mean that that stands out a bit more against the rest of the email. Everything else about the email is exactly the same, so the images and the copy. So you can test having a button that's within your theme colour or a standout colour. You could try things like picking out a colour from one of the images, or you could try reversing the button and the text colours. That's a nice test, gets a tick. The second thing you could do is changing the call to action text. So in this one, you can see I've changed the button text. Everything else has stayed the same again. It takes a little bit longer than the button colour because you need to think up wording, but hopefully, again, it won't take too long. You can test things like how long your call to action is, putting keywords in there, or putting the call to action in the first person. So by that, I mean your call to action could be something like book tickets compared to save my place. So just kind of changing the emphasis there. Again, nice, good test. In my final example here, it's just a reminder to change one thing at a time. So here I have changed both the colour and the copy. So when I look at the results, I'm not actually going to know which one of those things has had the most impact. So it's just about changing one thing at a time. Finally, testing your email length is probably one of the things that takes the most time. So just because it's about kind of wording and coming up with different ways to write stuff. But you don't have to come up with an entirely new email for each of your tests. So on the left here is an email you might recognise. It's our recent DCN newsletter. It's got lots of information about an upcoming event, including the date, the speakers, the content. And on the right is a version where I've cut out most of the detail and encourage people to find out more on our website. So really, this is more about kind of editing down what you have than anything else. But it can be used to good effect if you've got a blog or a news section on your website. So the one on the right might lead to more click-throughs because people need to click through to find out that information. But of those people who click through, there might not be quite as many bookings because once they get there, they realise it's not what they thought it was. So it's just about balancing those two things, testing to see what works for your audience. So I've gone through some ideas for what you can test in your email campaigns and some tips for coming up with your variables, but I haven't spoken much about how to do the actual testing yet. And this is because it's really wrapped up in your software. Once you've come up with your ideas for what you want to test, the actual testing should be fairly straightforward. So I'm just going to talk you through your options for carrying out A/B testing in your platform. Firstly, check what your current email platform offers. It is possible to do manual A/B testing, but your platform should be able to do the heavy lifting for you. So some platforms offer A/B testing on all plans, and on some you might have to upgrade. Most platforms don't offer A/B testing on their free plans. But normally if you do need to upgrade for A/B testing, you are going to get access to some other features as well, perhaps larger audience sizes or ability to send more emails and things like that. If you're considering doing manual A/B testing because you don't have the budget to upgrade, just consider how much time this is going to take you. So in general, the amount of time you're going to save by using your ESP's or email sending providers A/B testing function is going to be well worth the extra budget. If available, you could also do a free trial, so an upgrade to a free test version of it, just to test the functionality and see what results you get. And it might help you to make a case to the budget holder if you need to for a permanent upgrade. I'm going to show you the process for an automatic and a manual A/B test now, so you can just it will help you make that decision. So for an automatic A/B test, don't know why they all came up together there, that wasn't supposed to happen. But if you're using the inbuilt functions, this is the steps you'll take. And remember, it's going to be slightly different in each platform. But you'll start off by designing your base email. So just putting together one version. You'll then go to the A/B testing option of your mailing system. And you're going to tell the system what you want to test. So is it subject line, button, color, all of those things. You're then going to tell it what your variants are, so your two versions of your subject line or which two colors you want to test. You'll choose what percentage of your audience you want to test that on, how long you want to wait, and then you can choose whether you want them to select the winner automatically or whether you want to select it yourself once you see the results. You'll have planned this all out already, so it shouldn't take you too long to actually put that together in the system. You're then going to say go. And behind the scenes, your mailing platform is going to select two random segments of your audience, send the tests, then it's going to wait for the amount of time you say, and either send the winning version or wait for you to choose your winner. So that's the automatic A/B test. And this is the manual A/B test. So you can see already that there's quite a lot more steps here. So you start the same by designing your base email. You then need to clone that email to create your variant. So instead of just saying, oh, I want to test the subject line, you actually have to create that duplicated email yourself. You'd then create two random segments from your chosen audience. So you would say, for example, I want to send this to my whole newsletter list. So get me 10% random segment and another 10% random segment. And then you'll send your two variants to these two segments of your audience. Next bit's the same, you'll wait. And then you need to choose your winner. So you need to look at your campaign report and see how each version performed. So if you were testing your subject line, you'd say how many people opened version A and how many people opened version B. And then you need to create a segment that excludes everyone who received that first test. And this is probably the main part where it's quite easy to make a mistake, because what you don't want is to accidentally send an email to someone who already received the test. And then the final part is you send that winning variant to that segment you've created. So whole newsletter list minus the people who received the two tests earlier on. The last thing I want to talk about is testing for smaller audiences. So James talked a little bit earlier about how many people you're going to be sending this to. So when I'm talking about A/B testing for emails, you ideally want to be working with an audience of around 5,000 people or more. And I'm just going to give you some numbers to show you why. So across the board, an average open rate for a marketing email is about 17 to 20%. And the average click-through rate is about 2%. So if you have an audience size of about 1,000 people, and you might send your tests to 100 each. So test A to 100 and test B to 100. That means for each test, you'd be expecting an opens, 17 to 20 opens, and about 2 click-throughs for each test. So you can see that you wouldn't really have enough data there to choose, especially for like a button, you wouldn't really have enough data there to choose which is going to be the best option. So if this sounds a little bit more audience, you might find iterative testing a little bit more helpful than A/B testing. So you would design your base email, clone the email to create the variants you want, and then you're just going to split your audience completely in half. You're not going to do like a 10%, 10%, you're just going to do 50-50. And then you send your 2 variants to the 2 segments. So everyone is receiving the email at the same time. And then before your next send, you're going to check your campaign report to see what worked best. So if you've tried out adding certain keywords or trying out emoji and things like that, you're just going to see which one worked better that time. And then next time you send an email, you're going to use what you found to inform your next send. So as you can see, it doesn't give you results within your send, but you will start to build that picture over the course of a few emails. So that's it from me on A/B testing for emails. Hopefully that's given you some ideas for the things you can test in your emails and then some of the steps you might need to take to carry out those tests. Before I hand over to Roberta to talk to you all about websites, we can have a quick check to see if any questions have come in, and then we're going to be doing a 2-minute break. So I'll just stop sharing my screen now.
There are questions. I don't know why I've gone really yellow.
It's quite, yeah, because I'm quite blue, aren't I? It's quite a stark difference between us.
Roberta's a nice mix there.
Yeah.
So first off, we've got one from Lils around Google Funnels. We'll get to that when we get to Roberta's section. So you jumped the gun there, Lils. So we're going to, she'll show you a nice program that's going to allow you to understand the user journey they go on. So first off, from Sophie, we've got, should we A/B test the best time and days to send newsletters?
Yeah, you can A/B test the date and time to send your newsletters, but it's just a bit more tricky. So say you were testing out, is Monday better or Tuesday better? What you'd be doing there is sending an email on the Monday, then sending an email on the Tuesday, and then potentially waiting a whole week to send the next one. So you'd have to factor in quite a long delay. So if you want to find out the best day and time to send your emails, I'd probably recommend testing that more in that iterative process. So try a Monday 1 month, try a Tuesday the next month, and do it that way rather than doing the A/B testing.
Brilliant. Next, we've got Finn. So Finn's organisation usually send a newsletter only when there's like a really special announcement or special offer. So in that case, would you send it I mean, we've covered this in kind of what you're talking about. Do you send it one day and then you send it another day at the A/B test, or do you do what you say and have that like little segment that you do that A/B split and then send it?
If you're only sending emails not that often, which is great actually, only sending them when you've got a good piece of news, you don't have to just kind of send stuff like constantly even if you've nothing to say. But yeah, I would probably try to do A/B testing on that because you want to keep it compact and all within one thing. But that would depend on how many people are in your audience. So I might need to know a little bit more, but feel free to send me an email after this and I can look at exactly the numbers for you.
Yeah, if you want one-to-one support from us, email us at digitalnetwork@artscouncil.org. So yeah, I'm just going down through the list here. So we've got Shane Smith. How long should you leave between sending an A/B test and judging the results, or is it a percentage of opens?
I would look at your campaign report. Hopefully you've got something that tells you roughly how soon after you send an email do most people do your opens. If 80% of the people opening your email are doing that within an hour after you send, you probably don't need to leave your test running for that long. So it's quite different from what Roberta's going to say about website testing. You could wait 1 or 2 hours or 4 hours, and you probably are going to see the bulk of that activity happening.
Brilliant. So we've got a couple of messages from Shubak Festival and Ruby, who have both got above average open rates. So, they don't 17 to 20%, they're way higher than that. So if they've got a higher open rate, does it mean they can have a smaller pool of testing? So they don't have to have 5K that you said. Yeah, you mentioned.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one. If you've already got a really high open rate, you might want to test other things. So you're probably doing pretty well on getting people to open it. Maybe your subject line's great. Maybe your content has been so interesting for people that they're always really keen to open and read your emails. So the next thing you might want to test is thinking about button color or email design or your call to action text, and just thinking about improving your click-through rate instead.
Brilliant. Yeah. And Vicky asks, where do you get the stats for those average open rates you've got, those benchmark, where do they come from?
Oh, they come from all over the place. So if you're using MailChimp, it will probably have an average in there for you, comparing you to your industry, but you can get them from lots of places. So Campaign Monitor, who are another ESP, they provide those stats annually for people using their software. So you can find them all over the place. Litmus, Email on Acid, everyone is producing them, but they generally come out at around 17 to 20%.
Brilliant. Thank you. Excellent. Good to know. Yeah. On the pulse of the industry there, Peggy. Becca asks, when you're recording this, the test, do you put it in a spreadsheet? How do you put the results? Where's the best to put them?
Yeah, you can do them in a spreadsheet if you're doing it manually, but if you're using your system functions, then they should be recording that for you. But I do like to record stuff in a spreadsheet, so you can track it over time and start to see if there's patterns emerging as well. I have actually got a template for that. So again, if anyone wants a template for tracking opens over time, I can send that to you after this as well. I think I'm going to keep an eye on the chat and just answer any more questions typing, because I think we probably need to move on to Roberta's bit. And yeah, so I'll have a check through and see if there's anything I've not answered. And to Roberta now.
I'm Roberta Beattie. I'm the website tech champion. I'm going to go through some things that I've been doing. Well, I can show you that you can help to optimize your website. So when you optimize your website, the aim is to make it perform the best it possibly can do, obviously. All the things that James and Peggy have been talking about so far. And it really helps if you know what you want to expect from your site in the first place. So having those objectives that James mentioned is really important, because you can test your assumptions about those objectives and experiment and make sure that your website is performing really well. So once you've got your objectives set, you've got to decide how you're going to measure and evaluate the performance of that test that you're doing. So a criteria for success is really good. If you set your criteria for success, it really helps you evaluate whether or not the test that you've been running has been successful. So for example, we've been running a test on the Digital Culture Network website on the positioning of the newsletter sign up button, because one of our goals is to increase people signing up for our newsletter. So if you haven't signed up, go and sign up soon, right after the webinar. But so what we did was we created 2 experiments, and I'll show you a bit more about this later, to test the positioning of the sign up button. So we're going to measure that against a goal that we've got set, and our quantitative, we're testing the user experience basically on the website and making sure it's really effective. So once you've got your objective set, you decided how you're going to measure it and evaluate it, it's time to have that fun experiment. And by doing A/B testing or split testing on your website, you're going to improve the user experience and improve the performance of your website. You're hopefully going to see increase in conversions of the things and the objectives that you want people to do on your site. And by looking at all of your analytics and your data and measuring the right things, you're going to be able to spot opportunities. And they might come from a variety of different sources. You might be looking at platforms like Search Console, or you might be looking at your analytics, your Google Analytics, or a program that I'm going to show you in a minute called Microsoft Clarity, or you might be looking at user feedback forms, or you might be talking to people from your team, or your site visitors. So you can get this information from a various amounts of places to get inspiration for things that you should be testing on your site. Because there's a common trend with design and websites, and that is that there's a lot of assumption about the things you want to happen on the site and the things you think that people want based on the way you see the world or your expectations. And it could be like the way that your team or your site users, they might have strong expectations or opinions too about how things should look or how they should work. But this isn't always the case. And what's really good about A/B testing or split testing is that you can really start to help. It can really start to help you see if your hunches or other people's opinions and feelings are right. And if you do experiments on your site, you can make decisions that are based on data, and you can make decisions that are based on behavior. So I'm going to go through a couple of tools that I think are quite handy. There are tons of tools on the market to help you A/B test, and I'm going to show you around these two because they're free and relatively simple to set up and use. Microsoft Clarity is great because it gives you an idea for the things you can optimize with A/B testing, and you can spot them looking at screen recordings or other metrics it measures. It's especially good for UX, which is user experience, so the way people travel through your website. And then Google Optimize is great because it hooks up with your goals in your Google Analytics account that you've set up for measuring performance, and it allows you to run experiments and split the traffic to them easily. So we're going to have a bit of fun. If I look over here, it's because I've got another screen. So I'm going to move over to my second screen now. And hopefully everything will load up nicely. So I'm going to start off with Microsoft Clarity. And this is a free tool by Microsoft. And essentially, as I said before, it's really good for measuring the user experience on your website. And it has some really kind of cool metrics that I've not heard of before I looked at this tool. It's relatively new. It's probably about a couple of months old. So there's things like rage clicks, which means when someone's massively clicking on something and it's not leading anywhere. Well, and a rage click might indicate that you actually could make something clickable that's not clickable. There's things like excessive scrolling, which means that people skim through the content very quickly, so nothing's really stopping them or making them engage with the content on the site. There's things like quickbacks or your popular pages and all sorts of things like that. It's a really fab tool. And what it does is it takes screen recordings. So if we were going to test the newsletter positioning of the sign up form on the homepage of the Digital Culture Network, we'd look at some screen recordings on here. I haven't actually found any particularly that I can show you at the moment, but as you can see it records the mouse movements and what people do on the site in general. So they can give you some really good insights about how people are scrolling through the site, what things they're clicking on, and that kind of thing. And it also shows you like what it looks like on a mobile as well, which is quite interesting. It also does heat maps, which in this case, I've got it set up so it's the last 3 days, and you can see the more green something is, the more someone's clicks on it, and the more that they use those parts of the website to click on. And you can see here, this is obviously one of the split testing variants that I'll explain later, but this version of the homepage is being loaded with the sign up to the newsletter at the top of the page, which is quite interesting. So yeah, you can scroll down through the page and some elements of it will pick up of your design and some it won't. It's a fairly new tool, so I think they haven't quite worked out all the kinks yet, but it's still, as it's free, it's a really good one to use anyway. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of clarity. And what I'm going to do now is talk about the test that we did on the Digital Culture Network website. So, excuse me. We set up a test at the beginning of, or the beginning of January, something along those lines. And we wanted to challenge the idea that signing up for the newsletter at the top of the site would be more effective than signing up at the to the newsletter at the bottom of the site. We had a hunch that more people might sign up if that call to action was higher up the page and more prominent. So I'm not going to do a poll, but if you want to put your thoughts in the chat, whether you think it would be more effective or not, then go ahead. It'd be interesting to see what you thought. I can show you the results of the experiment in a moment. So on our analytics account, we've got various goals set up, and one that we've already got set up already is a goal that measures how many people sign up for the newsletter. So that was really helpful, because when I went to create my experiment in Google Optimise, which is the tool that I use to do the A/B testing on the Digital Culture Network site, I could assign a goal to it within the experiment. Now this experiment is running, and when you set up an experiment with Google Optimise, it calculates the amount of time that experiment needs to run based on the amount of traffic that comes to your site. So it calculated that we were running an experiment on the home page, and it calculated how much traffic it would need to run a fair test. I didn't have to do any of those calculations. It did it all by itself. I set it up so that 50% of the traffic went to the original version, and 50% went to the version where I'd moved the button for the home for the sign up for the newsletter to the top of the page. I set it to go to the home page only, so this isn't measuring the effectiveness of the newsletter sign up being at the top of the site throughout the whole site. It's just the home page, and I hooked it up so that it's measuring against our goal that I've connected it to the goal in Google Analytics. So we shall go and have a look at the experiment results, and you can see which one was the winner. So there's a button that you can press on your report, and it'll tell you exactly. It'll take you to your analytics account, and it'll tell you exactly how that goal has performed since it's been running. Now, bear in mind, the experiment hasn't finished yet. It's set to finish in April, so we've got just over a month left. But so far, the results are the original, where the sign up for the newsletter was at the bottom of the page, has had 761 visits, or 761 visitors to that version of the page, and 31 people have converted. So we've had 31 sign-ups. When I've moved it to the top of the page, we've had 770, so slightly more traffic so far, and 26 conversions. So that's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? Because my initial gut reaction would have been that it would have been more effective, and I don't know what you think, but that would have been my initial reaction, is that it might be more effective at the top of the page. So it's really good to test these things, because you never know until you actually see the results of how something behaves, because what people say and what people do are often two very different things. So that was really interesting. Now I'm just going to finish up by showing you how to actually set up an experiment. There are different types of experiments you can run on Google Optimise. There's multivariant testing, which is where it's a bit more of a complicated scenario, where you're testing lots of different things. So I wouldn't start there if I were you. There's landing page testing, where you're playing 2 pages off each other to see which performs better. There's pop-up message testing. So if you wanted to do a different message for your COVID alert, for example, and see which one was more effective, you can test messages against each other. And the one I'm going to show you today is A/B split testing. So here we've got I've set this campaign up previously, and I'm just going to edit this facet of it. So with Google Optimise, you can literally click and drag things to different places on the web page. So it shows you there's a plugin that it uses in your browser, and it takes control of the website. And it's taking me to my home page. And at the moment it's saying no changes because I haven't changed anything yet. And as you scroll down, you can see the different elements of the site as they appear already. I haven't changed anything yet on this experiment. And all I did on the one that we tested, I'm testing on, is I clicked on the this section down here, and I dragged it up the page so that it went to the top of the site. And if you just click and drag, you don't need to be a web designer or anything. It does it all for you. So I just literally clicked and dragged, and it's taking a bit of time, sorry about this, and moved it right to the top of the site. Just give it a little bit more time. Going to get there eventually. Now I want it to go just below the COVID resources, or above, that'll do for this purpose. And that was it. That's all I did. And you can, if I wanted, there are other things you can do, like change the color of a button, or the text on a button, or the position of a button. But I only wanted to test the one thing, because as Peggy was saying, it's really good just to test one element to prove that right or wrong, and then you can move on to another experiment and test another element. So when you're done arranging the page as you want, or making the change that you want to test against the original version, you simply click save, and then you start running the experiment, and it figures it all out for you, and you can visit it and look at the results at various times, just to keep track of it. But it's really easy to use, it's free, and it's worth giving it a go, because there's all sorts of things you can do with it. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and see if there's any questions.
Hello. I'm still yellow. We've had a few. We've had loads of keen people ask us as we went along, and then you answered it with the content, which was fantastic. So we've gone through and we've answered quite a few of them, but there are a couple there. So we've got Lil's one from earlier on, which was around identifying those customer pain points should you use Google funnels, so setting those up in analytics, or is there a better way of identifying those problems?
So there will be things that you're measuring in analytics, hopefully against your objectives. So it'll all depend on what that objective is and how you're measuring it. But if you're measuring it effectively, then you should be able to look at your dashboards and make educated guesses based on what those dashboards are telling you. So you might want to use something like Search Console. You might want to use something like Google Analytics or Microsoft Clarity. There's a load of tools out there that you can use. So it depends on, you might want to use like a user feedback form on certain pages, that kind of thing. So it all depends on the objective and how you're measuring and making sure that you're measuring it correctly.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you want specifics, just get in touch and I can help. I can
That's
help
it.
figure out all that out.
That's what we're here for. I think when we talk about like Hotjar and the heat maps and the screen recording and clarity as well, when you can look at, because you can filter, all those filtering options at the top of clarity allow you to see the objectives, so you can link it up to the objectives that you're trying to do, so such as newsletter subscribers and stuff like that. And then you can look at the people that got there but didn't do it. So by doing that, you can watch, you can literally watch someone's mouse moving around, clicking the certain things and where they get stuck. So it's really good for identifying those problems.
Yeah, it's brilliant for the user experience side of stuff. And, what someone says they experience and what they actually do is two different things sometimes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So when you start playing around with it, it's so exciting and you can get carried away.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you hit on something that makes a massive, dramatic difference.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, as we said in some of those answers, you don't need the developer to do this. What Optimise does, and I'm just about to move into Beth's question around it, is that it adds a layer on top of your website. So you're not messing with the foundations of your website. So it doesn't matter what platform it is. It's all done through JavaScript. So it's actually rewriting the page for your users when they arrive, which means that it doesn't mess with anything that you're doing there. You don't have to involve the developers. They just need to get that piece of code installed in the first instance, and then everything is managed through the interface on Optimise. But yeah, Beth uses Craft CMS, and it will be the same, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. These tools integrate really well with Craft.
Brilliant. That's it. So what we've got, we've got a couple more just coming in the chat here. Does it have any impact on accessibility?
If the website's coded nicely, it's all you're doing is moving elements around the page, so it will reflect that in the accessibility. So it shouldn't have any impact. If you're worried, you can do a little audit on the experiment itself with the Google Lighthouse plugin or something like that.
Brilliant. So any more notes from either of you that you want to just throw in there, the last part before I do a wrap up?
I've just put some extra answers into the Q&A for people. So if anyone's worried your question didn't get answered, feel free to go and have a look through those.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. What we're going to do is this recording is going to be available on our website, so you can view it on there. We'll have extra resources as well, and then you can just get in touch with us. If you want to implement any of this, you need help, that's what we're here for. So these two experts, I'm pointing here because that's where they are on my screen, but they might be there, I don't know. Anyway, let's do my little wrap up, and then we'll say bye-bye to everybody. So this is the email address. Please get in touch with us. That's what it's there for. I'm just going to click off to my next slide. There we go. And this is one which Hayden, our social media tech champion, said, please share this because you keep forgetting. And we do. We've got quite a big following on Twitter now. And if you don't follow us, then please follow us. So that's it. It's ace_DCN. So ACE_DCN. That's on Twitter. You'll find us there. Please tag us. Say how wonderful this was for you. And you can use the hashtag the Digital Culture Network without a it's hashtag Digital Culture Network. Please do that as well. We'd love to see your feedback on there. On our website, as we've mentioned, loads of resources about this kind of stuff and loads of other things that you might want to do. Please check it out. Recordings on there, upcoming events as well that you can book onto. And we've also got our YouTube channel. So the recording will be available on the website, but it's actually hosted on YouTube. So again, you'll find loads of stuff on there and loads of recordings of all the other things that we're doing as well. So please do check that out. And we are here for you. So please do get in touch. I keep saying it, but that's what we're here for. We're here to help you out. Have I missed anything? Last bye-byes from everybody. Pop back on the screen.
Bye.
Lovely waving there. Thank you, Amanda.
Bye, guys.
Doing the subtitling for us. Brilliant as always. Farewell. Bye-bye.